Hello, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to One Piece, humans. I'm 100 chapters from halfway, people.
Almost halfway through a 25-year series. I think our new method for CORKBOARD is going to be leaving it in the video, but saving CORKBOARD for smaller arcs where we're not talking about the story as much, like post Enies Lobby, Sea Train, etc.
Are you ready for POS? What is this? Are you ready for the
Point of sale. All my retail heads understand.
Oh, no, it isn't. It's are you ready for the post
The
today?
post.
Post Enies makes way more sense. Everything is sensical now. These are 10 chapters of glory. I totally get now why people were like questioning whether or not I should get to watch the live action, because Garp coming so far ahead of time kind of made it weird when we finally got to Garp it out.
I still think it's not worth having not seen it. However, it does kind of pull the wind out from that revelation.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, that is your grandfather. I know. I saw that.
All right, should we get into the post Enies Lobby where we discover so much about the world?
Not only do we discover a lot about the world, but it just makes you a lot uncomfortable. Like you're like, ugh, this is going to be so many bad things. And now I have a prediction that I know is going to be true and it's going to be bad.
You don't know anything's going to be true.
It started to swear in the colored translation like a lot. I don't mean just a little bit. I mean, our family level of swearing. You know that I try to keep my swears on the DL here because it's fine me in the future. I don't want to be the teacher who's like rapping out their best swears every day. But
you also just curse less now than you did when I was younger, I think.
Stunning. You also curse now that I'm not as impressionable.
Yeah, look,
way less than you used to.
Look, it is unironically true that you curse less now than you used to.
That's amazing. You're welcome. But just so you know, the children were given swear words for their birthday that they were allowed to use in the house. So if you, when you were 14, you got a swear word that went along with your gift, and then you were allowed to use it in regular conversation.
Yeah, I was such a like loser good kid that I didn't actually feel comfortable using the curses I wasn't allowed in the house with my friends even, and would avoid them. The fact that I curse as much now.
Loser, good kid. You were just a good person. I always told you that you weren't allowed to swear as much as me until your vocabulary met or exceeded my own.
Because it would ruin your ability to communicate if you just relied on curse words for emphasis.
You don't know how you feel, what emotions you're having, or what you feel about things unless you have the vocabulary to back it up.
And now I can say with confidence as a writing student that there's a lot of great times to use fuck.
All right, are we ready to get into this?
I think I'm ready to get into this. So we start basically right from the Mary's funeral and going back home.
Why did you have to call it the Mary's funeral? Why do you have to do that to me?
What do you want to call it?
All right.
I guess we could call it Mary's death if you'd rather. Mary's deathbed? That happier?
Whoa. Too soon. The burning of the Mary's fire. Oh my God, this is awful. You people. All of you stop talking. Here we go. When we returned, it was obvious where we were going. I'm really sad for Sanji PS. Can I just say, not having his awesome sword anymore? Aww.
Zoro, you mean?
Or sorry, Zoro. Aw, Zoro.
Yep. Zoro lost his cool free sword to the Rust Man, the most powerful devil fruit user.
The thing that I like about it is I like when he loses a sword because it's a smaller stakes loss. We know we're going to get to see some cool sword moment. So it's kind of cool when he loses a sword because then I'm like, ooh, I wonder what the next one will
new
be.
Sword for Zoro.
New sword for Zoro.
Okay, guys.
14,000 points.
Guys, anime viewers get this wrong. The anime added in the Rust Man going, and not only can I rust your swords, but I can rust your body. And then he grabs Zoro and his joints start to rust and he goes, ugh, I can't move. That didn't happen. They made that up. The Rust Man cannot rust your joints. He rusts metal and then he gets shot by Usopp. That's all.
I knew we were going back to Water 7. I knew that we would get a boat. Somehow I felt like there was going to be some sort of plot on... I somehow knew there was going to be something with Franky building the boat because... No, not somehow. That's a stupid thing to say.
He ordered special wood.
But we didn't know that before. But I somehow knew that was going to be a special thing. We didn't know what he had ordered, but I knew it was going to be something that would help with the boat. But with Franky, it had to be Franky that built the boat because he was the only one who actually understood how much the Mary meant. He's the only one that had that conversation with Usopp where he got to see the Mary spirit. He's the only one who understood how much the Mary gave.
I would argue, though, one other person did know all that because Yeah, Iceberg.
Yes, but Iceberg couldn't leave his town,
Yes.
right?
And
So
having
it
a
was
shipwright
gonna
who
have
built
to
the
be
boat.
Franky, because the only one who had a moment other than than Franky was Iceberg. And given what Iceberg is doing in his community, it was illogical to have him leave and become a crew member. And I really didn't want it to be Polly, because I just didn't, because
Oh,
Polly felt milk toasty.
Polly has the opposite of the Frankie problem, where the Frankie problem is that he's too big and loud and it's hard to fit him into a dynamic. But Polly has the problem of like he would just kind of blend in and become a background character if he joined the crew.
Exactly.
Like
Polly is a brown carpet on a brown floor. And having said that, he still has texture and interest,
yeah,
and
he's a shag carpet.
and is a fascinating person, and is loyal, and makes the room better, and cuts down the sound, and is a support for Iceberg. But Polly isn't a main character energy enough to be a straw hat.
I agree.
Yeah.
He's a little bland.
But I think that we make fun of Bland. I think Bland can be really
Yeah, you
important,
need characters like that, but
not
just
as a straw hat.
the Straw Hats aren't that.
Yeah.
That's for the stable people who stay home in their country, not for people who travel the world.
Exactly. Polly wasn't the right one. And then Frankie would have been the wrong fit, because he is still a goddamn red carpet. He just is. When we talked about it before, and Drock made the analogy that I said that we would have to think about how to redesign the entire room if you were going to put a red rug in. That's exactly what Oda did. By building a brand new ship, that's a redesign of the entire room. Then you put Frankie in there, who's a red carpet, and then you give him a purpose. If you had put Frankie on the Mary, he wouldn't have fit. It would have been all wrong. He wouldn't have felt like he was part of the crew in the same way. He just would have been fixing a ship that had already been part of all these adventures, and he's a shipbuilder and destroyer. So it wouldn't have been the same feeling, and he's too super not to have an actual focused thing to do. So him being the designer, creator, and papa of the Sunny made it so that the red rug worked.
It was absolutely necessary. He feels like he's immediately at place.
I think that this was a really good choice. And even when everyone feels like they are part of the Sunny fully, and they all have the same feelings and attachment to the Sunny, he's still the one who knows how it works the very best. And he's the one that's going to be adding to it. And he's the one who's going to be fixing it up all the time. I love the idea of the Adams Wood. I think it's a really cool side story, and I think it's something that's going to come back, and we're going to see it for other things. So I'm pretty excited about that. I did see the detailed plans for every room. It's in I think it's in both. It was in my colored version. One thing about the colored version I have to say is it puts all the original Japanese pages in. It puts in all the original pieces, and so you get to look at all the different things that were in the original. So it's so nerdy. It's actually better if you read both the black and white and colored version. I recommend that everyone stop reading one and read them both.
And you know what? Start looking up kanji when you see them in the Japanese version of the printed page that comes with the colored version you're reading alongside as supplemental material.
I have found you do need to do that. And also you should get the hard copies as well, because you're going to look at the pictures different. I'm just asking that you read each chapter 3 times. And why you're not doing that, I don't know. They also need to get a corkboard. We need to put that in the list of things to do.
Yeah. You're only reading 3 versions.
And then you need a corkboard, because you got to think about things thoroughly. I mean, what's the point if you're not? I think that everyone would read it if you just gave them that minor little shot in the arm. This is the greatest thing you could ever do. I wasn't happy when they were all like, Yokozuna, you just stay outside, when we were going through, by the way, back in chapter 431. Remember when we were talking about the chapters? I'm back there. Because I was like, dude, give the frog a break. He should come inside too. Get a better house so that the frog can come inside. This frog gave and gave to you and Enies lobby. Like, that frog did so bloody much. He deserves to come inside and have food with all the others. Makes me really upset that he can't. So they need to rebuild. We find out that Grandpa is a creep. He comes crashing in the door. I don't care what you say. He punches sleeping Luffy in the face. That's not a nice way to wake somebody up. The other thing that I didn't enjoy about him waking up Luffy is that he immediately is like, remember how hard I trained you, me, Monkey D. Garp, the fist, to be working in the Navy? I put you on that balloon and sent you up into space to make you stronger. And I know you're saying, like, well, at least he had somebody who would come back and take care of him. And I was like, where did Luffy sleep? Did we ever see where Luffy slept?
We have
in the
not.
live action.
We haven't seen anything about Luffy's backstory beyond the village where there was a bar he'd go drink juice at.
He smashed through the door in my thing. He takes the entire door off and they have to rebuild it. And there's some wall gone too. Make sure I come back.
You mean here, not his backstory. Okay. Here,
No,
this is
here.
just some like inn or something. I don't know.
Make sure we come back to the monkey and the crap and the stuff because I wrote such random notes. Yeah, I think it is. Did he smash through? Was there a door? I don't know. We'll have to look. Anyways, I like also that they're fighting and then in mid-fight they fall asleep. I told you that I hope in the future. I don't know if I can predict it because it's just a hope. I hope that Dragon and the Grandpa and the Luffy and the Ace are all getting in a fight and then all fall asleep mid-fight.
It would be adorable, but so we're not making a prediction, it's just a want.
I just want that.
Okay.
I think it would be the most hilariously adorable thing.
Is there a certain forbidden prediction that's stopping you from making that one?
Be quiet. Why couldn't the frog get through the wall once he smashed the door? He should have gone through the hole.
He should have, but I guess because he was told to stay outside.
Rude. Okay, so then the most important thing for me, because I've been waiting for this, Yokozuna is more polite than that. Yes, I will go for that. Because I've been waiting for them. We have the little fight take place outside, and you're like, oh, what's going on? And what's going on is in that, how long has it been? 3 months?
Yeah, about like 3 months, 3.5 months, something like that.
In 3 months, and don't come at me, human. In 3 months, Kobe shows up.
When have I ever come at you?
Having aged 6 years, he's gone from however tall, 1'1", to almost equal with Luffy now, way hotter, and he's got his glasses on his forehead, and I'm like, dude, I thought you were like nearsighted. Whatever.
It turns out if you work out hard enough, it fixes your eyes.
Oh, right. I forgot about the working out for eyes. And I know the argument about, oh, he finally got to eat and he wasn't having food. No.
Yeah, my argument is he was malnourished as hell and his body just got to catch up.
And then other people with the puberty hit him hard, and I'm like, totally. I don't think. Just so you all know, I work with children at that stage, and yeah, we can have some big growth. No one ever did this in 3 months.
I think
what happened is that Oda wanted to draw him bigger and better, and did.
I will say, in real life, puberty usually hits a lot harder and faster. Like it can hit basically all at once if someone was too malnourished to go through puberty, right? And then before they left puberty age entirely, they managed to improve their nutrition, like their life circumstance got better. It does happen. Usually, you're looking more at like 6 months to a year rather than 3 months. However, it's One Piece and people can control their hair with martial arts.
I've had lots of kids who have come from like war-torn countries and other things that we've had here that have had remarkable growth. They all would have been like, whoa, Kobe, that's a glow.
Kaido is saying Helmeppo had a glow up as well. I think Kobe's glow up, genuinely as great as it is, isn't quite as impressive as Helmeppo's, because Helmeppo's body didn't change at all. Like, obviously he's more fit, but he's the same shape. But like in the exact same way as his father, he has found a way to take all of his weird features and lean into them and find a style that works for him so fucking well. His lanky body, he's got his cool vest now, so instead of like lanky loser, he looks like cool, fashionable, debonair rake. He's got a visor to cover his eyes, and it makes his weird little eyelash eyes look kind of cool when he pokes out, because it's like, yeah, look, I got my neat little eyelash eyes. His hair, instead of cropping short like his dad, he puts in a slick back ponytail. Even his butt chin just somehow kind of works with the vibe he's going for, because he's not going for like pompous rich kid anymore.
A great glow up.
Someone asked how I feel about Kobe and Helmeppo in the live action. I think they were cast literally perfectly and may have been the best part of One Piece live action for me. Kobe and Helmeppo were so perfect.
They were perfect. Yeah, I loved them. And then we turned the page and we're like, oh, things are interesting. Oh, they have to rebuild the door. Oh, look, it's Helmeppo. It's Kobe. P.S. Monkey D. Dragon is a revolutionary, and here's your father.
And the world's most wanted criminal.
Everything blows up.
And Luffy goes, I have a dad.
What now? Excuse me now?
I also love the way Garp brings it up. It's so casual, like, oh, I heard you met your dad.
Yeah, it's right here. Oh, by the way, Luffy, I heard you met your father. What? My dad? What do you mean my dad? I have a dad? Oh, what? I didn't tell you? He said he saw you off at Logtown. And now he's picking his nose the whole time, of course. Loketown? Your father was there? Who's my dad? I'm interested in who's Luffy's dad is too. Your father's name is Monkey D. Dragon, the revolutionary? And you're like, what the shit did we just do?
We learn so many things from this visit where Garp's like, hey, do you guys want to know about the other great pillar of the four emperors? Do you want to know about, I don't know, Dr. Vegapunk? Do you want to know about your father? I'm just going to give you some information before I head out, just so you guys are up to date on some world building.
He's just like, what I want to do is just chuck some shit out there to mess your entire life up. And then everyone starts to run away. Dragon the revolutionary, he's a son? Luffy is the dragon's son? Then the dragon is the vice admiral's son. So right now, Dragon's compatriots don't know about who Luffy is.
They also don't know he's Garp's son, which is crazy because his name is Monkey D. Dragon.
But they're about to, because the world works on the spreading of information, and everyone in the military and all the people in the Galilee and everyone outside all heard it. So it should just be a matter of time before people in the world all know that
are you
largest
sure?
Revolutionary.
Garp did say, pretend I didn't say that. So I think that covers it.
Keep in mind that everyone is running away as soon as he says it, prior to him saying, pretend you didn't say that.
Yeah, I love Garp going.
Too late. He needed to do it one step earlier. It's too late. That information is going. But what I think is more interesting then is that Dragon's crew is going to find out that he is the son of Garp and that Luffy is his son.
And Garp is supposed to be this big marine hero and Dragon's a revolutionary.
Yes. But then Luffy is on the opposite side. So it kind of comes out as almost an even-ish balance when you've got Luffy, who is a pirate and wanted and has this huge price on his crew together, is on one side. And then the other side is Garp. I think there's kind of like an evening out in there. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Dragon's crew wants to use that information.
I love looking back on Smoker being like, what are you doing here? Where at first you're like, okay, so he's a big deal. He's not just a big deal. He's the most wanted man in the world. And you're in a backwater town in East Blue, stopping pirates from entering the Grand Line as a captain. And the world's most wanted man shows up. That would be so goddamn confusing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the more that you know about that moment, the more that you're like, that's wild. Smoker must have been like, dude, like, I need to capture the shit out of you. And then Dragon would be like, seriously?
You think you're captain?
You were never capturing me.
They fill Buster calls with hundreds of you, and you think you're getting me.
Yeah, exactly. Like, piss off. So that was fantastic. The reveal was great. The casual way that he decided to do it, way better. Like, if he had done it in a big reveal, wouldn't have been as good. This made it really good.
Holy shit. If I'm right, and Dragon has weather powers or a wind logia, like I said was my first reading, so if my first reading was right, what had to have happened right after Dragon was like, this boy's destiny doesn't end here, has to have been, you're nothing but smoke in the wind. Right? Right?
Yeah, baby.
My man can't turn down potential like that.
No,
there's too much potential.
I'm sad we haven't already seen it.
If that's what his power is, if he has a wind logia or weather control, absolutely.
I think it's weather control.
My read was weather control because of the lightning. That was my read on first viewing.
Well, we know it's not just simple lightning because we have Eminem.
And the wind turns to push them towards the reverse mountain.
And then there's also the rain that comes and draws the ocean up, and then there's lightning.
I can't do the other picture. After I'm done this, Pacomi's pointed this out. We have to give up on the other picture because I need to draw Dragon saying, you're just smoke in the wind, and then Smoker just looking exhausted.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you. I might add that to my t-shirt. That'll be in my t-shirt list.
Yeah, in theory, a wind logia could make lightning with air pressure. People are pointing this out. He could do it. It's possible. Weather control makes more sense. I think a weather logia would also be very cool because then he could just turn into the concept of weather. But logias do happen to be one specific element from what we've seen. Fire, ice. Hey, by the way, everyone, listen to me real quick. I got a lot of commenters being like, hey, you said Aokiji has an ice logia. He's a cold logia. It's the cold fruit. No, you're wrong, because he doesn't turn into cold, he turns into ice. And also, yes, I know it's called the cold fruit. Eneru doesn't turn into rumble. Luffy doesn't turn into chewing gum. I know it's gomu in Japanese, but my point is, the fruits don't have to be exactly the word they use, because Eneru's not the rumble man. All right? He's ice. Aokiji's ice.
I agree, Tim. What I was going to say is it would be really weird if they had done this drop. It wouldn't have felt as earth shifting as just dropping it casually. The casual drop is what made it so good.
Yeah, I so agree.
Goes, maybe I said a little more than I should have. And so then he does that, and we're like, that's the reminder that this was all a huge drop out of nowhere. And I think that's fantastic, because the contrast between the casualness and how big the information was great foil. It made it so much more crazy. And Nami listening into the conversation between Kobe and Luffy and Helmeppo, sitting out by the pool and pretending to just be like, I'm just writing in my journal, as like, listen to everything that's being said. It was so perfect, Nami. I love the idea of her being casually amazing in that way and being like, no, I'm not going to get my information secondhand from Luffy. I'm going to listen to the whole damn thing and get into the know.
Honestly, if you relied on Luffy for secondhand information, you'd get nothing. It'd be like, hey, what did you learn? I heard something about a second half of a Grand Line. Luffy'd be like, oh yeah, there's more ocean, whatever. I heard something about your dad. Yeah, I have a dad. That's cool, huh?
Exactly. Nami is the type of person who realizes Luffy's strengths and weaknesses, and rather than trying to change him, not amazing enough to be in the top 5, right, Mama? You be a nice kid.
You have to put her last. She has to be the last person you put on.
Hey, don't tell me how to top 5. I'm a top 5 master.
As our track record shows.
My track record shows that I am a top 5 master. I will not be called down for my top 5-ness. Top 5 is my thing. I'm going to start top 5-ing kids in school. Hey, kids, everyone line up. I just want to talk about top 5 today in class before we move on.
And that's bad.
I'll have one kid that every day I'm like, and then you are number 4. And then I'll be like, oh, but you know.
If you have to watch what that does to an actual child, maybe you'll stop doing it to Nami.
You are right there. That is true. Watching it, I just thought of a couple of kids in my class and watching their faces be like, oh. Some Mama Drock's gonna have some student named Emily always get knocked down.
Someone asked about you thinking of Dragon as the blue dragon still, and I think we've moved past that, because the 4 winds is what you figured for the other great power, and we now know you were right, there's 4 of them, so that's radical. I
think of them as the 4 directions.
Yeah, the 4 directions, sorry.
So in all the different directions, and then Luffy in the center, I think of them as being magnetic.
Okay.
That their power is so strong that it's magnetic, which turns out kind of is, right? In my opinion. Because when we get into Haki and we think of the 4 people, like obviously we have to take the Azure Dragon isn't dragon. I still think that Higashi, which is wood, and the Azure Dragon is still east for me, but it isn't dragon. We know that because dragon is something outside.
Yeah, because the 4 emperors are pirates and he's a revolutionary.
But on the other hand, I did get it right that there are 4 major powers and that they are something different, and that they are something that come together.
I think this is our first Shroom Star combo where you get the.
I was thinking about this, and hear me out on it.
I will hear you out before the official Shroom Star pops up on screen.
I get a mushroom for thinking that dragon was the east. But on the other hand, I think my idea that there are 4, that they are powers, is pretty big too. Like,
that's a star. Absolutely. That's why we're doing a Shroom Star.
Because so I think it is just a Shroom Star series.
Yeah, you get one of each. So future me, or if I hire someone, editor, will figure out how the Shroom Star is popping up on screen right now.
Or they could dance. Or they could braid each other's hair. You know how I feel about that in friendship.
I can barely manage to make your little submarine pop up.
Some people are really pressed. Oh, she doesn't get all the predictions right. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, that's what predicting looks like.
It would definitely be cheating.
That's cheating. If you're getting them all right. P.S. You know things. I'm not out here trying to get all the predictions right. I'm out here predicting, which means you're going to have hits and misses. That's fun. This is fun. And if it wasn't fun, I'd run a bus over it and get out.
All that isn't fun is sacrificed to the fun bus. That is our policy every day of the goddamn week.
Yes. Okay. Hey, again, they had a huge party, and I like that you told me it earlier, but every frickin' time it happens and he has a party and he lets them celebrate and take a moment, every time I'm like,
they had to
woot,
fight
woot,
so
high five.
hard. They took on the world government, and this party feels so earned.
And the people that we're partying with were all a part of it.
Later, we need to do a post-arc party tier list at some time.
Yeah, I would agree. We're going to do, on our next one, we're going to do a ships tier list.
Yes, I'm very excited about that because there's fun boats already.
Ships tier list. Would not be more excited. Right away, Mary is not on the list. She is not. She hangs out at the top. She is queen ship with a retired number.
Because there's so much emotion attached, but as a boat, she's not that cool or good, so you're rating her as a character, which isn't how you're rating any other ship on the list, and that doesn't feel fair to the list. I'm glad you came to that conclusion because I didn't know how I was going to bring up that I don't think Mary should be on the list because she'd be rated by the wrong criteria.
It's the same way that when people are like, "Oh, is Chopper your favorite animal?" I'm like, "Bite your tongue. Chopper's a person." So I'm Okiji having the little conversation with Robbie the robber.
Robbie. Oh, he's talking to Robbie down by the pub.
Boy, Robbie, I'm gonna let you know that you can go off on your own
Robbie
way.
is so British because there's no Robert in America who goes by Robbie that I've ever known of.
Yeah. So I love that they talk. And he's like, I'm going to let you go off on your own. And Jaguar D-Sol was a great friend of mine. And and they have this little conversation together. Because then you and I were talking about the idea of lazy justice and that somebody came up with this idea that he feels burnt out, that he comes off as one of the Japanese ideas of work. Yeah. Somebody who worked really hard for the company and then feels burnt out.
It was something I was seeing the other day that the admirals we have, they feel like they represent Japanese work culture. And Aokiji represents the burned out guy who at this point is just kind of doing it and is good at what he does, but there's no heart in it. And he's just doing stuff. And I think it's accurate. And you haven't seen much of Akainu yet, just in the flashback. But just from that, I feel like you can tell.
Enough to know that he's a total company man.
He's the company man. He's fully invested. Yeah. He's in it. He'll do whatever the boss asks without question as much as he can do.
Above and beyond what the boss would ever have wanted. Like, oh, do you want all these guys dead? I'm going to shoot the rescue boat too.
Yeah, like, I think that's a perfect read. Because think about it. His actions spell out that he was like, I feel like I need to bring in Robin, so I'm going to try. And then he's like, Straw Hat did something kind of bold, so now I don't feel like I ethically can. Like, it goes against what I feel like is fair and valid. I can't go through with this. But then he goes, I was supposed to bring Robin in. If I give the Buster call to spend him, he'll threaten her. He'll do it for me. And then I don't have to do the thing I don't want to. And then they win, and he's like, at this point, I feel like you got me, and I'm going to let you go. Like it just comes across as a guy who's really goddamn burned out.
But then every once in a while, and you see this within the thing, every once in a while, he's like, I actually have to do this job so I don't get fired. I'm one of the most important people here. I have tenure, but I have to pull my weight every once in a while. So every once in a while, he does something freaking wild. Comes in, stops the show. And then he's like, yeah, that's good for a while. I'm tired. I'm going to pull my sleepy mask down and have a nap now. Then live out your life and prove to me that O'Hara is still alive. I think they're going to go prediction time. I think it's really interesting that he says here at the end of this chapter, so let's get into it, where he says to her, you have finally found a place where you can feel safe. And she stops and goes, yes. I don't know if it was right or wrong for Saul to let you live, but maybe you can answer a question for me. I intend to. Then live out your life and prove to me that O'Hara is still alive. This, in my opinion, prediction time, he is going to become a person who wants the 100 years discovered.
I get that vibe here. I think this scene is the biggest reason people see Aokiji as a good guy. I definitely don't see him as a straight up good guy, but I don't see him as a straight up bad guy either. But like, giving Spandam the Buster call is too irresponsible for me to just gloss over. Like, that's a huge, huge mistake. But I do see him as someone who that's a result of feeling like he was obliged to bring Robin in somehow, but feeling like Luffy proved himself and it wasn't fair for him anymore to come after the Straw Hats with force, and he needed a way to bring her in. But
I agree.
But this, it feels like he doesn't like what happened to Ohara at all and wants their legacy to succeed.
It's interesting that he's just making it clear that even though on the day that he was there in the Buster Call fought on behalf of the government, that in actuality he wants O'Hara to be successful and he wants the 100 years discovered. So in my world, for my prediction when it happens, I think if this happens, that it is worth a platinum star.
If Aokiji helps Robin somehow
Is
discover
helpful in finding the missing century or the void century. I think that's a platinum star worth.
People are pointing out that he was only helping / letting her be alive once she wanted to live. Sure. But guys, I'm still not going to give him a good guy pass. I'm going to give him like a not a bad guy pass, but he, again, irresponsible guy for sure.
No, he's not good yet. But if you stick with me for a sec, I think that he saw what happened to Robin in this go around, and he saw what happened at O'Hara. He saw what happened here. He saw what happened when he gave the Buster pass. He's burnt out. I know he says lazy, but lazy is a way of making an excuse. Burnt out is an actual psychological issue. And I think that he has seen everything and he has decided, because he was also friends, and he mentions that right before this, he says, 20 years ago, the giant who fought O'Hara, Jaguar D. Saul, was a close friend of mine. I think that he's mentioning it because he's had such a deep change of heart. And I think that in this panel and in these panels, we are seeing that his change of heart is going to lead him to actually help to find the Void Century and bring the secret out, because he agrees that it is being suppressed by the people that he's working for eventually.
Okay.
That's my thinking on this. So then, Grand Line, Sacred Land of Marijoa, right?
Okay, we do have the name. So here's something. Now that it's been called the Sacred Land, you were talking about how you felt like the Izanami figure, the Great Darkness, has taken some other culture that was in charge of the world's religious iconography in their ruling, similar to Romans. It's a thing you mentioned briefly. You have mentioned it briefly.
Should I just say it quickly again to clarify?
Yeah.
So if you weren't here, I said that the symbology that I used of there being 4 directions of northeast, south, and west, and then the center is Luffy, just like in Japanese directionality, there's a center person or divinity, and it is the sun god. When you look at the government symbol, it is also the 4 circles in the same way with the circle in the middle, and then the lines coming to it. So the symbology of the government actually fits directly over the sacred symbology of the divinity. And I said that felt very Roman Empire to me, the way that the Roman Empire would go into different places. They would take over so successfully by taking some of the culture that previously existed and layering over it. So their most important ideals will be met inside of things that people already believed. Because when you do that, people are more likely to go along with your new ways.
And I think the fact that the government's headquarters is in something called the Holy Land backs that up pretty significantly.
Yeah, when I saw that, when it said the Sacred Land of Marijoa, I was like, that Sacred Land of Marijoa really feels like, hey.
Marijoa, I think it's French.
Oh, is it Marijoa?
I think.
Marijoa.
Yeah, I think so, case, but most Americans say Marijoa because, you know.
Well, we're Canadian, so it's Marijoa.
Marijoa?
Yeah, our French, impeccable. Not only are we Canadian, but we're from British Columbia, where we don't do the French.
Where no one speaks French. Yeah, a fun fact about British Columbia, it's really common in almost every province for people to speak French. And in BC, nobody does. 14th most spoken language. Nobody speaks French. Yeah. I mean, look, you can call it heritage all you want. I actually think it's kind of a racist policy that we favor the Quebecois who do not come here over the actual immigrants who live in the province.
It is, there's some heritage involved in it, but not fixing it is the part that's now not so good.
I think that there should be better accommodation for the massive immigrant population we have. That said, I think the fact that there's French labels in like Ontario and Manitoba and everything, I think that's really good.
I also love that we're a dual language country. I finally get a gold star for the shipwright.
Well, it's so good for you that Usopp rejoined after Franky joined the crew.
Mama gets a mushroom because she said the shipwright would be small. I don't know. I already kind of looked at that.
Did we put that in predictions? Because I think you made that a prediction.
Yeah, no, I said that I thought
the shipwright will be small. That was prediction 100 according to Kaido's list.
Oh, good for me. I'm already at
So-
100 and something. Okay. So I love that he says here, and I want to get into this because that he says that O'Hara is still alive. Did I talk about how I think they're going to go back to O'Hara to look in the water and find the books, or find somebody who has found the books
You
yet?
did, yes.
Okay. I want to make sure I do that because I think I meant it last time. Then we're in the sacred land of Merjo, and they're like, "Oh my God, 5 elders, 5 elders in the new world." In the new world, huh? That's interesting. One of the 4 emperors, red hair Shanks, because that's after that area, and we talked about that, has broken through the line. One of the 4 emperors. So they call them emperors, but in my other version, they do not. They call them the Yonko.
Fan translations tend to keep titles in Japanese. So like the 5 elder celestials are called the Gorosei, the 7 warlords of the sea are called the Shishibukai, and the 4 emperors are called the Yonko.
Ko mean is my question. I thought she was 4.
Ko is short for emperor and Yan is 4. Yeah.
But I thought she was 4.
She and Yan are 2 different ways of saying 4. Oh, okay.
So that's interesting too, because she is also close to death, but Yan isn't. But they're both 4, and 4 is
And
the
they're not
number
the
of death.
Shiko.
That's going to change.
She is usually avoided, by the way. Interesting.
It's going to change some predicting because he could also be playing around with that, right? Like, that's an interesting thing. So one of the 4 emperors, red hair Shanks, has broken through our lines and has finally made direct contact with Whitebeard Edward Newgate.
This is one of my favorite scenes in the series. I love it so much.
The redhead says he wants to see you. Yeah, let him through. He had better brought some good booze, that little punk.
How do both of them come off so confident and baller?
The fleet was broken through, blah, blah, blah. Red Hair and Whitebeard will make contact with each other. Nobody knows what will happen. Stand by, on high, alert. That tells you how much power they have, eh?
Oh,
and
yeah.
when you come into here, and neither one of them gives an inch, and they both come off looking cool AF.
It's something so great about Oda's writing is he can write a scene that hypes up 3 different characters.
Yes. By the end, you're like, all these people are amazing. Well, that's truly remarkable because normally when something like that is going on, somebody has to be pushed down for somebody else to be pushed up.
It's not something people talk about often, but I think genuinely, because it's an action series and power and hype are so important, I unironically think one of the most impressive things about Oda's writing is how often he can write fights or scenes that hype up multiple characters at the same time. No one gets lowered. Lucci versus Luffy, neither of them came out looking lowered. They both got heightened by the fight. And this is the same way, but it's not just them. A 3rd character is going to get hyped up in this scene.
And I think that's a really big deal because in real life, that happens. People can be in an argument or people can be in a situation and they both can be right and you can see both of their perspectives. But it's not often that authors get that right.
And I think it's because the easiest way to hype someone up is by having them like dunk on someone and beat them. But
exactly.
Oda is so nuanced with the hype building that he's able to write a scene where everyone comes out looking stronger.
Yeah, it's especially a thing on stage where they always talk about how you have to use varieties of heights on the stage, sitting, standing, etc., so that you can kind of delineate who has the power and the spotlight in the moment. And in this one, it would just be 2 dudes standing upright with a full beam on both of them, and then a 3rd person comes in and they're like, turn on another spot. Like, it's impressive as heck.
He uses levels non-traditionally because he has Whitebeard on a throne looking gigantic, also sickly and covered in tubes, but he's so big and intimidating. But Shanks is the platonic ideal of the badass guy not looking at an explosion, that he doesn't flinch at Whitebeard's intimidation and posturing at all. So he's able to be an entirely different kind of hyped of, I'm too cool to care about all of what you're putting out.
But speaking of an explosion, he uses an explosion for Shanks. He has him walk on with his hockey and bring an explosion of people falling down all around him and passing out. So it's like an explosion, but it's an implosion of human life behind him. And then he gets to the front and everyone is just boom, onto the ground. His hockey power is overwhelming. Doof, 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 doof. So despite the fact that at the front you've got this massive man sitting sick on a throne, Shanks comes in carrying this huge thing that he shouldn't be able to carry given how big it is and how big he is, and is literally taken most of his crew down behind him. So it's like he has an explosion going on behind him, and Whitebeard has his own, and then the 2 of them just stand there as 2 explosive characters being like, let's meet face to face. And you've already been hyped up and told, like, holy crap, what's going to come out of this moment? Like, oh my God. The Navy's all like, what is possibly going to happen? And then Shanks was like, hey, can I tell you about my owies?
Let me tell you about this cut I got a few years back.
Hey, ouch. I love that it has this ouchie going across his face with the little sting. So Roger Garp, okay, so this was awesome. Hey, red hair, look what you've done. Oh, it's the Marco of the First Division. You want to join me?
It's me.
Yeah, look, it looks like there won't be any fighting. You can leave us alone. They sit down, he pours him some booze. This is wine from West Blue. You bring this to our meeting? Hey, I've sailed all around the world, but the wine that's made in the place I grew up always tastes the best. It's a wine from my hometown. Now have a drink. It's not bad. Roger, Garp, Sengoku. There aren't many people left who remember the ocean the way it used to be. 22 years have passed. What do you expect? You sure have made quite a leap, though. On Goldie Roger's ship, you were nothing but an apprentice.
More big reveals.
Big reveals! But it made sense, right?
Yeah, so I need to say, Marco is drawn way more handsome looking in the future.
Yeah, I was like, that's Marco?
He's drawn progressively more handsome looking each time we see him.
Okay, well that's good, because no offense, but...
Yeah, he's not looking his best right now. He's having an off day.
If the vermilion bird of the south was born in the west, yeah, I looked at that. I have it on a little thing, and I'll see if I move him or not. We'll see. One never knows. This was interesting when we were reading this because I know that we had this big buggy reveal, but I thought I had already had a buggy reveal. When I read this, was this the first time we read this? Because I legitimately, when I was reading this, was like, didn't I already know this? Oh, that's why. They're right. One Piece live action made it more explicit, I think. I think you might be right, Timo.
I
think there was something there that was kind of a hint, and so I just didn't even think about it as being a thing. I think it was just really implied, is what I'm saying. Like, so you kind of, yeah. On the day the captain was executed, we parted ways at Logtown, and we've never met since. Come with me, Buggy. I'm not going to work under you, idiot. I heard rumors that he's still a pirate. It all happened in a blink of an eye to me. There aren't many who speak of the legend anymore. Your duel with Hawkeye is still fresh in my memory. That was interesting information. Having a duel with Hawkeye. Everyone was surprised because I knew that they did, but I was like, tell me more now that we've mentioned it twice, right?
I love that Whitebeard is doing all this hyping for Shanks, talking about his life and all the crazy things, and like, I'm aware of you, you brat. And Shanks is just like, can we move the conversation along, though?
Like, good for you. I also have a memory. So anyway, when you came back from East Blue missing an arm, everyone was surprised. What enemy did you give that left arm to? Oh, this? I gave it up for the sake of a new era. That is one of my very favorite lines in this entire frickin' manga.
But it's so cool for the audience. I feel like to Whitebeard, he's got to be like, great, vague. I get, that means nothing. You have to understand that means nothing.
But I don't care. You know what, Whitebeard? Too bad. It's not for you. That's for me. That's for Mama. I think it was one of the coolest damn lines ever written in this manga. I think it also tells you when everyone keeps talking about the new era, and we've always looked at it as a bad thing, that there can be a different type of new era. So it's not just like, in the new era, we're not going to have dreams and care about this and this, because we know Luffy is all about that. So it's like a different type of new era, and I think that's really important. And then we go to, if you don't have any regrets, then that's fine. Whitebeard, I have fought countless battles and received countless scars, but the only one that aches right now is this one. Sting. And that's when we find out. Do you understand what I'm saying, Whitebeard? He laid low and waited for his chance. He didn't even rise up to become a squad leader or make a name for himself. He hid himself behind the giant shadow of Whitebeard. And once he had enough power, he finally made his move. A man like that will never be satisfied. He'll keep aiming for the top. With his own will, one day he will aim for your seat. Oh, I want you to stop Ace. I want him to stop Ace too.
A while back, you were like, I wonder who gave Shanks a scar, and I said, yeah, it must be someone pretty powerful.
You just love to glow up Blackbeard.
Blackbeard deserves so much more hype than Mans gets, and We see Shanks standing in front of Whitebeard. We see the terror he can resist. We see the confidence of this man. And he says, I got cut. I was not being careless. He just got the better of me. Take this man seriously.
And yet somehow Whitebeard doesn't.
I think because he doesn't take Shanks seriously.
And I understand that because he's doing I'm the old man and you were just an apprentice and da-da-da-da-da.
I'm a 37-year-old man, Whitebeard. Chill.
After that, no one will be able to stop this new era from spiraling into chaos. Do you think that frightens me? I am Whitebeard.
He's not wrong.
I was just thinking about what would it be like if everybody talked that ignorantly. Like, you go into the school, do you think I care? I am Mama Drop. But them splitting the heavens, is it war? Boss said that he's not going to go in a fight. What did the redhead do to the old man? Wait. He's not that kind to do anything stupid, but it does seem that their talk broke off. They just split the clouds. No, they split the heavens. Did they split the heavens? Well, it doesn't feel like something a person could do. I just don't feel like people are out and about splitting heavens. The Yonko, or the Four Emperors, definitely divine, because I think splitting the heavens is a great distinction between splitting the sky. Saying that you split the sky is one thing, but saying that you split the heavens is a completely different thing. So for me, splitting the heavens was one of those confirmation moments that the Yonko are divine.
We can have you say that to my reading. Just a pretty cool thing they did. I will say, when I read that, I was like, what the fuck did they do?
If you were a divine person and you are having a fight with another divine being, I think splitting the heavens is pretty low-key. It's just something you do sometimes. Anyways, I think that is evidence on my theory.
All right.
Grand Island on a certain island. The Ace coming to see Blackbeard. The fight, I hate it.
Yeah, it's so good, though.
Franky had all those great ships that he had put together. So I felt like he would be looking for something with that $200 million that would be a creating, because the last time he got to create was when he created his warships and then when he created himself. And then after that, he had to go into a life of destruction, which would feel really hard for a person who was raised in creation. And I like to think about what that would have felt like for him, which made me think when he had the 200 million berries, that of course he would be doing it for something to create. And then when that creation thing turned it out to be a ship and he came and saw everybody and said, I really want an opportunity to make you a ship. And it was your money I used to buy it. And so the atonement comes in two places here, because you first have to pay back, which he did in a way, because he gave them the wood that he used with the $200 million. So it's kind of a payback, plus the money that would have gone into hiring the shipbuilder. And then on top of that, he invested himself and his heart and his soul and his designs into the ship. And so I think all of those things made me feel together like it was an atonement for what took place, which is why when he became a member of the crew, I was way more willing to accept him than I think I normally would have been. It was necessary, because if we were saying that Usopp needed to atone and say sorry before he was allowed back in the crew, which I agree, he absolutely needed to, then for Franky to not have to apologize in some way for what he did would have been really upsetting, because Usopp had history and was there for the entire thing up until this moment, and had already gone through so much and was deeply a member of the crew. So if they had just said, oh yeah, that's okay, Franky, that you sent your people out to beat the living shit out of one of our crew members and steal the money from them and then leave us in such a difficult position, and then when our crew member came there to get our money back, beat the living crap out of him, we're just going to bring you into our crew as if that never happened. So there was this lead up to all the crew fighting on their side and all of them understanding how important they were, and then all of the people in Franky's old crew are now going to spread the news of how incredible they are and that everything changes, but Franky still had to atone. And then Usopp also had to atone. You can't just piece out of a crew without actually saying just the words, I'm sorry, and understanding that what you did, you fractured something. You broke the crew. And so you absolutely have to say, I'm sorry. But on the other hand, the Japanese idea of fixing something with gold to make it stronger and make it more beautiful, and you are not ignoring what happened. You're in fact saying, I think it's called kintsugi. Oh, someone put it up there. So for Franky, building the ship and using the money to build this ship was kintsugi, and Usopp apologizing and admitting what he did was wrong was kintsugi. And you don't ignore it, you rebuild stronger and move forward, and you still have the beautiful piece. Yeah, the golden joinery or the golden repair. And so it now makes your crew is aware of what happened, but rather than it pulling apart, if you fix it in the right way, you strengthen. And I think that's why this entire part of the arc made me feel so good, because I felt like it was the manga equivalent or the narrative equivalent of watching Japanese kintsugi.
Oda is good at delivering what you want and need, and a fracturing of the crew. It was a loss of trust in each other, and he had to write appropriately the crew rejoining in a way that felt just as satisfying as watching Crocodile or Anaru get punched really hard and go flying, stuck the landing, and that's kind of incredible. It gives a catharsis. It gives the same sort of satisfaction and closure that we get when a bad guy's beaten, but for something that's a lot more subtle and a lot harder to craft a scenario for.
I agree. When you were talking earlier to me and we had that the little talk, and you said how important it was that even though Zoro.
It was Zoro, yeah, who was like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to take him back unless the first thing he says is I'm sorry, and then he doesn't,
And
so
instead,
he just pretends not to.
when he's pretended not to hear him, and that's how he got around that. I thought that was absolutely beautiful, and they heard him because the minute he screamed, "I'm sorry," out comes the rubber arm and just picks Usopp off the shore as if like suddenly the clouds parted and the noise just went across the ocean in the right way. So if you didn't read it, if you were in chat, and this person said that they studied and in 2017 in Japan, and they spilt ink on their bag, and the teacher said not to try to get rid of it because it showed its history. And this is something that I think is hey, let's get philosophical about things, shall we? I think this is one of the things philosophically and environmentally that we have the biggest problem with. It's why now I love to see a hole in a sweater. I will use felting, and I felt it and make it look like something cooler. I like it when my things are breaking and I care for them, and I take it as a chance to show art and care. And I'm trying to be that type of person because all of that is history. Taking care of your things and your relationships and your world, as if every time something happens to them, it doesn't devalue it, it adds value. And that's also an indigenous principle. There is a thing that loosely translates to copper. It's not the material. It's this special shaped, almost shield-like thing that would come to a lot of indigenous people potlatches on the west coast of Canada and down into the United States. And every single time it would be involved in potlatching, it would gain value. And the wear on it and the marks of being in a potlatch would gain it value. And that's what the Straw Hat crew feels like, that these fights and these pieces and the rebuilding of them feels like it is the thing that is adding the value. It is making us understand how valuable the friendship is. When it gets hurt is when we understand how much we admire and value it and how much it means to us. The you don't know what you got until it's gone kind of thing. And when they pull him and he pretends the first thing that Usopp said was sorry, I think that it strengthens the reader's work with the crew too. Suddenly we're like, oh my God, no, this crew's special to me. They have to stay together. Usopp leaving would be absolutely devastating. And repairing friendships, repairing family, repairing items, being a person who puts the work in to repair and then says, I'm not going to forget it. I'm going to make it more beautiful in the repair. And that's going to remind me how important this is to me. And I think that's what we saw in these two things back to back. We just saw it done in a different way. And that's why I like how he linked Franky's apology and Franky's atonement with Usopp's. Okay, the wanted posters are fantastic. Oh my God, Usopp at a 30 million berries? Like that was like Luffy levels before. And then Luffy, damn Luffy.
300 million.
Well, that puts you up there, doesn't it, kid?
Turns out breaking into world government headquarters is worth triple what kicking crocodiles' ass is. Granted, he didn't get public credit for that, so his bounty probably should have been higher.
that wasn't. Yeah, that was under the radar. But 50 for Chopper. Adorable.
I had a conversation about this with someone recently where someone was like, but they just saw Monster Point, so like how could the world government say that? First of all, we don't know if anyone who saw Monster Point is alive. Second of all, I like to imagine that they think that the Straw Hats just fed their pets some drugs to make that happen.
I like that too, because it kind of Chopper feels like the new Sanji, that he's not being recognized for his great destructive power. And I like that. I think Nami, 16 million berries, I think she should have been the same as Usopp, honestly.
She should have been higher than Usopp because she fought Khalifa, but also that was behind closed doors. Khalifa is on the run now. They don't know exactly what Nami did. They saw her lightning bolt some mooks. Whereas like Spandam, who has authority, was personally having him and his goons pelted by Usopp from 2 kilometers away. So I get why they thought he was more of a threat.
And then Sanji's. And don't say the thing you're... Oh, just go ahead. What do I tell you not to say the thing? Go ahead.
Lens cap is on. That's it.
Anyway,
they tell you.
No, they say you should have taken the cap off. And this is why I wish we could be reading it together, because we would have been having the most fun conversation instead of you being a man dies when he's forgotten.
He does.
Sanji be a demon.
All right, so we are in full Sanji be a demon territory.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you can't.
Just because he lights himself on fire and names his attacks after the devil and doesn't get photographed, we think a man's a demon.
It goes black, and just because
it has swirly eyebrows.
Yeah, obviously. I like the way they put the eyebrow over the hair too. But who says, I saw this guy, let me draw the picture. Was this a drunk turkey?
It's so funny. It's so funny though.
Let me just tell you that my good creepy kids could have done a much better job. When they put number 13 down, she just took out a pencil and drew people with perfection. What the hell is this? He looks like when kids are first learning to draw people and they're like, I did it, I draw a people. It's better than it used to be, but it's still not a people, you know?
I love it. I love Sanji's stupid picture. It's so good.
What I loved about Sanji's picture, like Sanji's picture is stupid and dumb and funny. Then it goes up to like stunning funny when it goes back to the Baratier, and they're all looking at his pictures and they're like, looks just like him. And I was like, yay. Oh, and you know what? Here's another piece of genius that Oda does, and I don't think I've talked about this before, and I just want to mention it here because he's going to do it more. I know he will. But the fact that Oda keeps going back to everyone's past life and not just pretending that they didn't come from somewhere and that they don't have people who care about them or are wondering how they're doing. And they're letting us know that they're being followed and the people who love them are following them is so important, because it keeps adding to my emotions about how I feel about the Straw Hats, because I keep being reminded of how every one of them is beloved in some way. Because everyone wants to be like, oh, you go off on great adventures with your friend and it's just about the people that you're with and da-da-da-da. No, we all came from somewhere.
It shows again how good Oda is at giving what you want, because before you read that, we were on a call and you said, I really hope we get to see some people reacting to the Straw Hats bounties. Yes. I want to know what people think. Oda gives you exactly what you want.
Just a minute, I have to say this. They're rude and terrible.
Oh no, are you singling someone out?
You bet me.
I bet you?
Unguarded shark. Who's following Robin? Evil person. There's no one following Robin. Everyone is followed by somebody, and somebody is looking out and they're beloved.
You're right. Robin doesn't have anyone.
Unguarded shark said that, and you and I were having a conversation earlier about whose story in life is probably the most sad.
Yeah.
And when we're looking at this, and everybody is being followed by somebody, and everybody is being loved by somebody in some way, somewhere, except Robin.
No, oh, poor girl. Oh.
So the only person is Okiji. That is the only person who's paying attention. And with Okiji, he isn't being supported. That's depressing as hell. I'm done now being sad.
At least she has friends now. Now she's friends. So it's all better.
A great way to say that. And so it's pretty cool. You're both like on the edge of prediction, and you're also giving everybody what they want. People want to know. So I'm just going to put this out there. The pants thing is fine. People are like, oh, what did you think of the no pants thing? It's fine. It's a great gag. I laugh. It's not leading the narrative. It's just funny. But the fact that people keep asking me makes me think I should have paid more attention to it.
No, I don't know. I think people, because you are of an older generation than most of our viewers, and people are expecting you to like you find it distasteful or something, maybe.
I think all of you, if you think that, should go look up the band Two Live Crew. That's what I listened to in high school.
Also, just good. Also, just good music. So. Let's be honest, also, though, Frankie's running around in a Speedo all the time, anyways. There's not that much that changes.
This part here, Robin is a good nutcracker for Christmas, though. Not a lie.
That's a good bit.
The very best part of the nakedness is when she's like, what if I used my many arms to squish your balls way hard? That was like a highlight for me because I had talked before about how I think that Frankie was learning to forgive himself and that he loved who he was and he rebuilt himself to be who he wanted to be. But this was his final thing when they were like, time to let it go.
I think I didn't tell you something very funny about the testicle clutch, which is one of Robin's moves in French sounds like apparently Japanese for testicle clutch.
Oh, yeah?
Which became kind of a meme in the One Piece community way back in the day, which some people think is why Oda had her use a slight tweak of it that actually was testicle clutch or whatever it is she says to torture Frankie.
That's perfect. I'm here for that.
Also, yeah, Frankie x Robin is a popular ship in the One Piece community. That is a pair that people do like.
Frankie and Robin getting together? No, I don't want anyone.
No, you don't want, you're not a Frobin supporter.
I'm not in anyone. I think that the trope of always having to hook up with somebody, it's just so boring. Hook up with people off your boat. I mean, I don't think that a relationship is necessarily a thing I need to see for One Piece.
No, it's not what the series is about. I agree, but I still think there are ships that can be fun to talk about. I do have a Robin ship that I support, but we're not there yet.
Currently, my ship is
Nami and Vivi.
I do kind of like that one, actually. I'm not gonna lie. But that's also probably because Vivi's no longer on the boat with them. That's a kind of cool thing, like if she comes back, and there should be a ship with Luffy and meat, but that's all meat. If Nami comes back afterwards, and that would be a place that would make her really happy, that would make me really happy for her.
And she could be a princess. She'd love that.
Oh, and she'd be an amazing princess. Yeah.
The only issue is it's hard to be gay as royalty because your job is to have children.
Like, literally adopt. You need to bring in some new blood anyway.
Sorry? Genuinely not how royalty works for some reason.
But it also does. Don't at me. Royalty also does work that way, and especially Japanese families will often adopt. If they only had a daughter, they would adopt a son, and they would bring him in, and he would take the family's name, and then he would carry on. So, no.
Wait, people are also saying Usopp x Kaya.
Yeah, that one is kind of already there.
That one's cute. It's cute and good.
That one's not even cute in the way that I think that it would actually be sad for me if he didn't finish his ventures and then be like, you know what? My greatest treasure is Kaya.
Wouldn't it be so sad if we get an epilogue where like everyone gets to go home and have a better life and Usopp gets home and they're like, yeah, she died of sickness. Shame.
Wouldn't it be sad if everybody had somebody to go home to and Robin still had nothing?
Yeah, everyone goes home and Robin loses the only family she's ever had.
Robin. They're like, and everything's done. And then Robin is like, bye, everyone. That makes me, I'm never going to think about that again.
Sure?
No, we're not talking about that. That's dead to me. This Sunny, when we find out what it's named and how it's named, how huge it is, how cool it is, but more importantly, how it's named, you better believe that I put that inside of my Luffy is the sun god. I don't know what we're going to name it. Blah, blah, blah. Let's call it the Thousand Sunny.
I love Frankie's reaction to that being like, no, it's a badass lion. It's not a sunflower. Stop.
It kind of looks like a bear.
It doesn't look like a lion very much.
It doesn't. I love it. It's adorable. It was hard too because, you said too that a lot of people didn't like it.
Yeah, tons of people did not like the Sunny at first.
Sunny, they were like, screw you, Sunny. I immediately loved the Sunny because I already knew that I was going to be losing the Mary. So it was like adopting an old dog from the pound. I just was grateful. I was grateful for every day I had with the Mary. Do you see what I'm saying though?
I do.
Okay. So for me, because I remember that I was going to lose the Mary, I just said to myself, I need to love the Mary with everything I can for as long as I can. I don't know when I'm losing her, but I now remember seeing this with Baby Drock. So I was already prepared for us to need another ship. I already knew that it would have to be Frankie who built it when I started to decide that that's the way it was going to go. that people were like, is it going to be this one or this one? And I had said to myself, I think it'd be Franky, but he's a red rug. So how are they going to do that? So for me, when Sunny came out, I was like, okay, that worked out really well. And then when they named it Thousand Sunny, I was like, gee, shocking.
If one was looking for evidence, it would look like evidence for sure.
It is definitely something that we didn't talk about is the fact that Iceberg is rebuilding the land so that it no longer sinks and that it floats.
Yeah.
And I remember years and years ago when I found out that Venice was sinking, I was like, can't they just make the entire thing float? And I said it to an adult who obviously knew about geography.
And they were like, what?
Yeah, no.
Why do you think they could?
It's like, because it didn't seem like real land to me. I was like, didn't they just build it on stilts or something and make like top land something? And it wasn't until I was older and I understood what an archipelago was and I understood the islands and and that, you know, that's not geography. That it was super funny because I was like, I wonder if Oda had the same thought as a child.
Seems not impossible.
And that's why he wrote this, because I was like, oh my God, Oda, you're speaking to child me.
What if we made it float?
So after we go through the you have to forgive yourself, Franky, and he lets go. I love that they made Franky talk about how he believes in his crew and he's not worried about his crew. And he knows that if he leaves his crew to do something, that they can do it on their own. They don't need him there all the time because they can take care of themselves. And then for that moment, he thought they had passed away. And then boom, they come back and they're like, no, dude, you can count on us to get it done and to actually care for ourselves. And so when he leaves them, he doesn't have to worry that they're all going to fall apart because he believes in them to be able to carry on without him. He's wrong. He's unfortunately a little bit wrong because they end up needing Iceberg to tell them what to do. But they're fine.
I love Franky as a character. I love that he became this cool gangster, but he really was just like taking in disenfranchised youth and giving them a job.
Oh, I love this person's Goran. I think the merry go to 1,000 Sunny is a month of March reference. In like a lamb, out like a lion. Luffy's career in the spring of a new era. Dude.
Whoa.
Dude.
Hold on there.
Yes. You should high five yourself at home right now.
This is no longer a suggestion, it's an order.
That's stunning. And then this person said, you forgot something very important. It's Catus. Yes, Sodom and Gomorrah are alive.
They made it.
You know that if they hadn't have made it, it would have taken me a few days to come back. I'm not lying to you.
That does make sense.
If I can read any further because I love them so much. I love them existing. I love them being there.
If your forbidden prediction is right, how do you think you're going to survive?
I need you to be quiet. You're never allowed to talk about that again. The live
never?
Them.
I need to put an addendum on that. If you're right, I have to be able to talk about it when it happens. Provided the forbidden prediction is true, I need to be able to talk about it when it happens, when it's no longer a prediction.
We're going to ignore it and pretend it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's how we're going to handle it. Okay, so Garp. Hear me out. Garp.
My third favorite character, Garp.
Garp is what we call the suck.
Monkey de-goated.
Monkey de-goated. Shooting at his grandson. He's beating the living crap out of Luffy. Luffy doesn't fight back, and they're all like, Luffy, why are you not even fighting back? And he's like, I can't fight my grandfather.
Because he'd lose.
But, I mean, Garp is strong AF. He picks up those balls and chucks them like they were shot out of a cannon.
Mm-hmm.
Come the hell on. But I like that they don't land. He's all upset with himself about how they're not landing and they're fighting them out of the air and Luffy's bouncing them off of them. Let me see this. Throwing gunners in the mountains is normal. Yeah, I get that. And I love saying Garp sucks because I know that people are like,
I'm a Blackbeard fan. I'm used to my favorite characters being dunked on.
What you're not thinking about is Luffy is his grandson. So I want you to imagine what if your grandfather was like, yep, good point. Rules are rules. Stand still. Time for me to kill you. Not cool.
I stand by that if Garp was trying his hardest to get Luffy, he would jump over to that boat and punch them to death himself if he was trying his hardest.
What I wrote on my thing is, I think you probably could have thrown 2 in a row and you're making excuses and saying you're so angry and you could have hit them is probably his way of being like, I'm totally trying to kill them.
He's having to use his ability to cut steel. They're having to bounce him away. They really only get away because of how good the Sunny is, but he's definitely not trying his best.
Very good. And in the end, they only get away really well because of something that they didn't know the Sunny had.
Yeah, but it does not at all feel like he's trying as hard as he could.
No, I would agree he's not trying as hard as he could, but he's not trying. The thing that made it all worthwhile, though, was Luffy's line. I'm glad I got to see you again. Come on, say my name. What is it, Luffy? I still got some cannonballs left. Give it up, Grandpa. We're going to get serious about running away now. Let's meet again somewhere. See you soon, Grandpa. You cheeky thing, don't talk to me like that. Vice Admiral Garp, please calm down. Yeah, so that part was worth it. I said, yeah, it was worth Garp shooting at his actual frickin' grandson for that moment there.
If I have any weakness in media literacy, it's that I have so much of a power bias. Powerful characters blind me to rational critique too much. However, I think in One Piece, it actually works out in my favor. I think there's a lot of characters people dunk on who are big names. I just love Garp. I love him so much. I love how much he shows up to flex. I love the boisterousness and the I don't give a fuck attitude.
Yeah, shocking. This person said the exact same thing I was thinking in my
Powerful
head.
characters blind me, says the Blackbeard stan. Y'all sleeping on Blackbeard.
You know what it is, Drock?
Uh-huh.
We really enjoy Luffy, and when people are trying to kill them, it doesn't make us happy. So the whole movement through all of the different people, getting to see our great good kids and where they've come to. I love the Nami one with Pinwheel Head being so angry that she's half naked, but so excited and proud of her that he blew it up so that they could see.
Yep.
He wants to blow up her piece and be like, look at her, she's rocking. But they should have put some clothes on her. And all the different people being like, I'm so proud. Come on, master, don't cheat us out of it. No matter who you become, I only want you to cherish your own way of the sword. Oh, every single one of them having their own thing. And showing Nami's mom, showing Nami's mom's cross, which I don't know why we have a cross, to be up at the front, and her sister saying, would you prefer a sadder picture? No, it doesn't matter. Look, she's doing a thing we hadn't seen in a long time. Smiling. And Dr. Carrera being like, this part here, I don't care what his bounty is, as long as I get to see his face. He looks like he's doing just fine. Oh,
Ugh. It's
so
beautiful.
good.
I want to say real quick, the cross I think is worth noting because I've always felt like Oda doesn't really put in details by accident often. Like he won't often include something just because it's an expectation in our world. And I think about that in the cross there, and I think about it in the crosses on Whiskey Peak. Whiskey Peak. It kind of implies that there's a god who got crucified in this world.
Wow. That, first of all, dark.
Well, I mean, that's the story of Jesus.
Anyways, yeah. I always remind myself that after the Spartacus Rebellion, that over 6,000 people were crucified in 24 hours. So, like, crucifixion is kind of a common theme. People like to think it was only a Jesus thing, but I mean...
Oh, yeah, no, it was just a common thing the Romans did.
1,000 people in a single day were crucified.
I think a symbol similar to the cross was used in Hinduism before Christianity. The reason the cross is used is a really complicated thing that I don't even fully understand. I just figure if I was Jesus, I'd be like, that's not my favorite object.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. It's been used in many, many religions.
Yeah.
And many other things. So if I was Oda, I would just be like, look, it's a way that you see things. Da 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 da. It's used in
it's shorthand religions. For a symbol
shorthand for a place that a person is laying.
Yeah. It's just a thing that did stand out to me when I was watching originally. Like, does this world have that?
Our insurgents in Centuria of the South Blue have won. Another nation has fallen. Like this idea of the nations falling, only in the way that creates a whole other area for me to think about. Like, nations falling, then what happens? Because nature abhors a vacuum. So if a nation falls, then what replaces it? Because you can't have a lack of leadership without a replacement of some sort. So my question was, when I was reading this, is it a government that is also a larger overarching type of government?
Or is it one just for the country?
By country. So is it dividing them as a planet? Is it an overarching government that they are helping to overlay and say, hey, here's a way that we can help you and move throughout? Because if you're not going in the government, what do you do about things like economy? Are you still using berries? Like, do you change what matters as far as economics, or do you switch into something else, right? So like, what is it? Or is it now individual countries, and do they have their own money, and then they have to do exchange rates, etc.? So that's kind of what I was wondering in there. Yeah, Skypiea did have its own currency.
And it was not a world government nation.
Yeah, but it was its own thing. And we don't have confirmation of whether that's one of the ones that fell, or if they're just so separated and they don't have access, or if there is some access, because they did talk about the different access points. And did Dragon have the ability? But we didn't hear anything about Dragon from up there. We did hear that Goldie Roger, but we don't know if they saw Dragon or any of Dragon's people. And you would think that would be something that we would hear, maybe. Our insurgents in Centuria of the South Blue, we have won another place. We did it the other day. We won in the North Blue in Do Not Rejoice Over Victories. This is a war. Oh, sorry. What is this? It's Straw Hat Luffy. He was the one who defeated Crocodile in Alabasta, and he caused a separate incident at Enies lobby. They've grown into a major gang of pirates that the government cannot ignore. Their total bounty is 667 million and 50 berries. You're welcome, Chopper. You know that famous Navy man, Garp? Some say that the captain is his... Oh, where are you going? I'm going to get some air. Live as you wish, Luffy. There are times in history when it takes a will such as yours together with chance and coincidence to make people question the world. The day will come when we shall meet.
Ominous.
Stunning. Such a good job, because now we know when he says when it takes a will such as yours, we know that he's directly talking about hockey.
We should highlight that I told you hockey can be translated as will, willpower, or ambition. The reason we know about hockey is because it's mentioned when Shanks goes on Whitebeard's boat. So this isn't spoilers at this point.
And I already knew that Luffy had hockey, and I knew that that was the thing that Red Hair Shanks had, because I had already been saying, like, why was he able to stop the creature in the water? And as soon as they were like, that was his hockey, then I was like, well, Luffy must have mad-ass hockey. And of course it's called hockey, because secretly, Oda loves Canada.
Secretly. It's why the Straw Hat, whose real nationality would be Canadian, has a 50 berry bounty, because of his great respect for Canada.
No, it's why hockey is hockey. So I think that this was really important, because I think it's when it takes a will such as yours together with chance and coincidence, and I would say luck. And I would say that luck is the thing that they talk about a ton of times inside of Amaterasu. When they talk about the sun god, they talk about how one of the things is that you would get so much luck. Love that Dragon is out there openly seeing the shadow of darkness and trying to move towards revealing the 100 years, in my opinion, the missing 100 years. I feel like Dragon knows more than he should. I still feel like he's an actual dragon too.
Now all we have to get back to, if I'm not mistaken, is the scene we wanted to move away from, which will make a good interlude into Corkboard, which is my man Marshall meeting his hunter.
Let's just start this by saying Ace is the best of us.
Ace is a very good boy. He's polite and smart and driven and respectful and, let's call it, brave.
Yeah, and I can honestly say that as soon as I saw this, I already had been freaking out. I didn't want Ace to catch up to Blackbeard. Blackbeard feels like a tempest.
That is such a good description to why I like him. He feels like a force of nature moving through this world.
Yeah, he's a tempest that any moment could boil over, and you just never know. So Blackbeard frightens you from the moment that you meet him. So to have Ace catch up to him, I was just like, oh, no, I'm not ready for this. Finding out why Blackbeard decided to kill that person and the story of the devil fruit and finding the fruit that he finally wanted. Because when they're first having this fight, Ace is like zero worries from Ace. He's just like, yeah, I'm going to fight you, and it's probably going to be a bit of a problem, but honestly, not that much, because, you know, I'm second commander under Whitebeard. I'm no small potato. I gave up my personal will and dream for that of Whitebeard, which tells you how much I believe in who he is, and which tells you how strong I think I am, and you were under as well. And so it was pretty interesting when he gave the story where he said, my bad luck had continued and I would have just given up someday, because I knew that it was my best chance of finding that devil fruit. But my friend got the fruit before me. So you killed Thatch and stole it? No, that was just bad luck. This power chose me, Ace. With this, I'm the strongest in the world. Behold, a rarity, even amongst Logi fruit. Ace, your body is made of fire. You may be fire, but I am made of darkness.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I mean, I know you do, but I don't like that.
I love that.
Yeah, I know. It proved my thing. So it says, you can't kill me. This is said to be the most dangerous power in all the history of devil fruit. It was really interesting that we know some of the devil fruit and they're in a frickin' book. It's pissing me off more that I don't know where the devil fruit comes off once they're inside of a book, which to me says then, would the shadow of darkness want people to know what the devil fruit is more? Or would light want people to know what devil fruit is more?
That depends on a lot of variables, I think.
Exactly.
I think you'd need to know more
Then the
about devil
question I
fruits.
actually started to ask is, does devil fruit benefit good or evil more? And I know that when they call them devil fruit, the leaning is that you would be like, oh, well, devil fruit would be, no, not necessarily. So who has more to gain from devil fruit?
But I feel like you
And
can't
who
even
has
look at
more
it
to
as good
lose?
and evil for that, because if you're talking about the shadow of darkness, you see that as something in the government, and we see the government is full of evil and good, and pirates are full of evil and good. So I feel like it's not good and
Agreed.
evil, it's who benefits more, freedom or control.
Yeah, but there is a type of evilness to it. But who benefits
Yeah.
more? So when I was like freedom, if freedom benefits about it more, in that you would have people with special abilities who could fight off darkness, who have special abilities, and without these powers, there wouldn't be enough people who were powerful enough to fight against darkness. So even though darkness could get a hold of some of the devil fruit, yeah, this person saying that they could change it, I had that thought too. Because if darkness published the book, I don't think that they would necessarily also publish things that were truthful. If the people that fights on the side of light were making these, they would know that some people who you didn't want to have them would get them. So then I was like, were devil fruit a weapon? At some point, were they made explicitly for people to fight against the shadow of darkness, and then they lost?
Interesting.
It feels like, though, that there's a couple of things at play. We can even have devil fruit were used to help to create the weapons who could fight against people, but when they lost, the devil fruit and the ability to make them still existed. Maybe even they existed and are now being used by the darkness, whereas once they were a weapon against. It's a hard call.
We do
Anyway,
see a lot of the strong fruits in the world government, but I think that comes down to power more than anything, because like we also see strong fruits with strong groups like Baroque works. So I think having a lot of power politically, financially,
gets you devil fruit.
yeah, because you can afford to buy or steal them. I also think the Navy probably, based on the fact that like we saw an admiral with an incredibly powerful logia, they tend to divvy them out to their strongest people.
Because we have people in a lot of different areas getting devil fruit, kind of asking then, does somebody want these fruit out there and why? Anyway, we find out that he does this in purpose. He creates this blackness, this what he calls darkness as gravity. And
What you thinking?
well, and I told you this earlier, I think that the four emperors, I think of them as having a pull, almost magnetic. I think of them as being the magnetic poles that pull people. So what pulls away from magnets? Gravity. Like nothing escapes gravity.
So you see this as like the opposite power, like an undoing power.
An undoing power. Because the magnets are like a type of gravity, right? Like our two poles on either end of the earth help to create the gravity that we have. Without the movement of our planet in the way that we have, et cetera, we wouldn't have the gravity that we have, which we've seen because every planet has its own type of gravity, et cetera, et cetera. And so the poles are part of the reason that we have our gravity. So I like to think about how they are like magnetic and he is gravity, that it feels like two things pulling apart the world in different ways. Yes, this is a conceptual
Talk about a
idea.
conceptual gravity.
That gravity sucks in everything, because when Ace hits him with powers like Fiery Doll, et cetera, that he burns up and that he becomes like filled with Ace's power. I hate that he can pull Ace's devil fruit out, but I also like it because it helps to prove what I think in this other thing.
It's very scary.
Being able to pull the devil fruit out, though, is important because it helped me to come up with another idea. This fight between them is just ridiculous. It's one of the best fight scenes we've seen in the manga so far.
I love Teach immediately being like, boys, leave. This is for the big boys.
Everyone gets sent off and they go into their great good fight, and then we actually split, boom, the world into two distinct areas of darkness and light there. That's actually where it ends, isn't it, for that chapter too? No, that's it. Which is important. So we're going to start corking right away.
Into the cork. Corkboard corner.
It's the cork board. Okay.
Wait, it's plugs.
Okay.
People are reminding us it's plugs time.
Oh, is it
Everybody,
plugs time?
no, we weren't corking. We weren't corking yet. Everybody, counter in. Counter. Look, I know you're surprised because it's a 10-chapter segment and we're 3 hours in. So you were surprised that wasn't already corkboard. However, count us in.
I like that we do some wild numbers now, but we need to hit one eventually. Oh, there it is. I found it. Hi there, YouTube. Do you enjoy One Piece? You're a person who One Pieces. You're a One Piecer.
I just had an idea.
What?
Just this time.
Okay. Call us in.
Count us in again, everybody. Count us in again, everybody.
I love it when people say hi to YouTube.
Thanks for saying hi to me.
And one. Hey there, YouTube.
Hi.
Do you enjoy One Piece?
I sure do.
Oh my god, that's crazy. I also enjoy One Piece.
Oh, holy shit.
Would you like to watch more stuff about One Piece?
All the time.
Would you like to see images drawn in front of your very eyes like magic about One Piece?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Well, then you come to the right place. This is the Drock Show. Get on board. If you hit like, other people who like One Piece will also find that. Did you know this?
I just thought I hit it, felt like it for no reason.
No, that's what you do. You press that button, then other people will also find One Piece and they also like it. Yeah, no, for reals.
What? That's crazy.
And if you press subscribe, it can happen again and again. You could continue to come back to this. It'll tell you. Wow. So now that you know the magic, why don't you press like and subscribe so that your like of One Piece and other likes of One Piece can all come together and we can become a happy One Piece family.
Well, boy, howdy. It turns out I forgot that. A thing I often do. I'm going to go subscribe. While I'm there, I'll leave a like and comment because I think that will also help.
All right, drop and give us 5 while I have a
God damn
conversation.
it.
While we're here, can we just say that Ace in this fight has the drippiest drip in dripdom? Is he virtually naked? Yes, he is virtually naked, but he does do the drippiest drip in all Dripville in here. What happened to Drock? I guess I'm going to take this over. I'm just going to be all corkboard all the time. You're going to hear crap that you never thought you would hear. It's time for corkboarding. I think as just a corkboard thing that we just start with, is I do think that one of the improvements that Franky is going to make is to cover the bottom of our boat with the same stones so that we become invisible to Neptunians.
All right. That is now a prediction.
G-Prism.
I am so grateful to Kaido for writing predictions.
I don't know if it's a prediction, but I'm going to make it a prediction, but it isn't a prediction. I'm just saying Franky is going to continue to tune the living hell out of the Thousand Sunny. That Franky is going to take tuning the Thousand Sunny as his like personal thing, and it's just going to become absolutely wild awesome. I'm going to do the cover thing. If you're following along and you have a book, or you can go into the Shonen Jump or whatever, go to chapter 425 to the cover story there, and you'll know if you're in the right one because it's the Bridge of Mortal Kombat. Where are they now? Shot number 2, Wiper and the Shandonians, the Forest Frontier. For those of you who are there, the first thing that I would like you to notice is that the tattoo that comes up the front of his chest then wraps around the back of his neck and then up over his ear and then over his eye is definitely Nola. He definitely has the King of the Sky tattooed up over the back of his shoulder and over his eye with an open mouth. And I would say that that is definitely Nola. And I checked and it was there before. So it kind of feels like they understood the level of sacredness that came along with Nola, which is really interesting. And then if you look at his arm, you'll see that he has, which is making me rethink about how many I have. And so we talked about this, a 3-circle design on his arm. And then it has spokes that come out. So the center circle is just a tiny dot. And then there's an inner smaller circle and a large outer circle, just like my piece. And then you'll notice that it has the spokes coming out of it. Then Drock was like, that's a wheel. And I'm like, it's not a wheel because it wouldn't drive with the spokes sticking out. And I said, and before you say it, it's not for a ship, because the Shandonian people aren't sailing.
But unless it's a cultural thing from their distant past where they have an association with sailing, even though they don't.
No. And it's not a sun either. That's not how suns work. They don't have spokes that go all the way to the center of it. The spokes go around the second circle and then come out towards the outside. So to me, it follows something. It may be not identical to mine, but I think it shows the 3-tiered system. and then it shows the different power pillars within side. So I think it's
All
interesting.
right.
So then we go back to the last fight here, and when we're fighting between Ace and Blackbeard, or as I call him, that asshole who's fighting with Ace. Did some thinking about this and why it matters and how they were splitting this and how it's said here in this last page at, is it Banero? Banero?
I think Banero.
Banero. I'm going to go Banero.
Banera bread.
The duel. Don't make me snort. The duel at Banero Island in the Grand Line. This battle between pirates would later be identified as the trigger for their major events that were to follow. That's called foreshadowing.
We have our killing of Franz Ferdinand in the One Piece world. Blackbeard is our Gavrilo Princip.
So I was talking it out and we've been thinking about it. What could it possibly be? What are the events that we're going to follow? I have some forbidden predictions.
I think you can say some of your prediction here without saying the forbidden prediction, because it's not a mandatory part of the rest of it. I'll say some of the prediction
without saying any of the forbidden part. And so I think that it has to be something that disrupts the three pillars, because that would be the major event that would change things moving forward, because the government has already been freaking out about this idea. Not that I give a crap about what the government wants. So if you're trying to mess up the three pillars, we already have red-haired Shanks and Whitebeard. They're having a bit of a fight. They split the heavens. I don't know if you heard. It was kind of a thing. And then you have Blackbeard wanting to hunt down Luffy because he wants to prove that he should be the next one of the sevens, and because he eventually wants to be the king of the pirates. The reason he wants to get Luffy, and he tells Ace, which was probably a stupid plan, given that Ace is his brother, this time it's personal, is because it would prove that he was good enough. So he has the dude there who was working on his behalf and convincing the government. But who else could be given to the government in order to make them think that he has power? Ace. And so I think that Blackbeard, he can't kidnap Ace, because if he kidnaps Ace, Whitebeard will be like, I have an entire giant-ass crew, you stupid fool. And Blackbeard has only been out for a short time. He hasn't had time to accrue. Because of that, he can't take on Whitebeard directly. He wouldn't be strong enough. His crew would fall. But if he gives Ace to the government, and the government had control of Ace, that would be maybe one way that they could pull Whitebeard away from Shanks, or the government could go into negotiations with Whitebeard, or whatever it is else that they want to do with Ace. I had a second wondering there if Luffy could find out that Ace was kidnapped and he was in the government's hands, and then Luffy gets upset and comes and tries to rescue him, and then Ace needs to be used as a port key later on
account of his name.
On account of his name actually being port key. But for sure, I think he's going to be kidnapped by Blackbeard after this fight, worn down, wake up, find himself in the property of the government.
And the port key portal magic circle is musings?
Musings. So then I also think that this helps me prove, not that I need it anymore, even though I put it in my book, I'm done with proof, that Luffy is going to be a sun god. Hear me out. We discovered that the black hole pulls everything in. Because everything that pulls inside hurts him, because he can pull people's devil fruit powers out of them, I think that Luffy, being the sun god, either sun god or the D, it either comes from the D or his sun god side, but because he has great hawks, it says when his father is talking on the balcony, somebody with a will such as yours. And also earlier, Jaya. Blackbeard says that Luffy has incredible will. That, I think, is because the will of D, which could be other things, which we'll talk about in a minute, but also because he is the sun god. So Luffy is actually, just like with Eminem, where Luffy's rubber ability was the opposite of Eminem's lightning ability, and that's why Luffy was his kryptonite. Luffy is Blackbeard's kryptonite. Because if you pull away Luffy's devil fruit, which is the rubber, that doesn't matter. Because left over is Luffy's light and fire from the sun. And what is the opposite of darkness and the utter gravity? Ultimate light. Now, I think Luffy will nearly die still, so I want to make another prediction that Luffy and Blackbeard will probably get into a fight well before the end. Losing in a fight first is going to be a way that he learns how to use his sun powers on him, because he will have had his devil fruit pulled away at some point by Blackbeard, and so he'll have to tune into his other thing. Every single time that Luffy picks someone for his crew, he just knows. And I think that there's this idea that Luffy's haki is talking to the strength of the haki of the people that he meets. He knows. He knew his Sanji, his Zoro, Nami. It's like his haki is calling to their haki. I think I would also go with Dragon is a storm wielder or a weather wielder.
I see a weather paramecia as more likely because he seems to be doing wind and lightning based off of the lightning bolt that saved Luffy.
Wondering now whether or not Luffy gets his heredity or his calling as a sun god from his mom's side and not his dad's. Monkey D, Dragon, Monkey D, Luffy. So I'm wondering if the monkey side is something that goes through the father and the Amaterasu side is something that goes through the mother. Then I think the D could be, it's going to be something more now, I think, like determination or destiny.
There's some logic to that, being as it's referred to as the will of D, and haki translates to will, willpower, or ambition. And often will in One Piece is used to represent the idea of an inherited ambition.
So I think the people with D are the people who have a more divine strength. So Dragon being the most wanted man makes me wonder if he already knows some of the secret of the 100 years.
Pirates aren't directly fighting the world government, and the revolutionaries are.
Exactly. Here's the question that I'm asking, and here's why I'm kind of stuttering with it, is I wonder to myself, how are they getting these different countries to fall away from the world government? What kind of information would you need to give? He's giving something that is actually proving to these countries that the world government has evil inside of it. I saw a spoiler that I have no context for it. It was like a person with bright pink hair and this weird, cute little skirt that kind of looked like Sailor Moon on steroids, but with shorter hair. And she was doing this weird turny thing, and it was a little thumbnail when I was trying to get to my own stuff. And I was like, ooh, what the hell is this? So I hope she's crew. We need another check.
Top 5 favorite characters.
I'm going to make my number 1 first. Just a minute. I gotta check first because I don't want to do it. I really don't.
No. Number 1, you can't. You can't
I don't.
be serious.
I really don't. So let me just look.
You can't be. You're not going to. You can't. No. Stop. No. If you do that, you're doing it just to beat the allegations. You can't make that. You can't.
I am. Don't make me kill you dead. You rotten thing. Here we go.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Nami's not number 1 in here.
Okay, good.
But she is.
She's good. Franky built the ship, so I think that's pretty big.
Yeah, I know Franky built the ship, but did you see that Ace was in this one?
I did, but you know who's better than Ace in the same scene as him?
I don't even.
I will even. I'll odd if I want to.
You can odd and even all you want. Not your top 5. He ain't on my list. My number 1 is Dragon.
Interesting.
Because we find out that he's Luffy's father, and it changes everything. He's fully clothed, and I put him in number 1.
Beating all the allegations today.
My number 2 is Franky.
I mean, fair. He
for
built
obvious
the Sunny.
Reasons.
I think it's like the biggest thing in the segment.
And then my number 5, 4, yeah. I'm going to make my number 4 be a combo.
One of the infamous Mama Drop combo placements.
It is definitely going to be a Ace and Blackbeard combo.
Hey, there we go. No, they do deserve a combo. The scene only works because of both of them.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. Number 3 is another combo. That is a Whitebeard and Red Hair Shanks combo.
Again, like, it's necessary. You take away one of them and the scene isn't nearly as cool.
No, it's nothing. 5 is hard, and it's not Nami.
I mean, it's fair. She's sometimes you don't make it.
Here's another thing that people aren't going to like. It's Sanji.
Interesting. I want to know why.
Sanji's getting his picture. Sanji's picture being hand drawn and his photograph not working out, for me, was like one of the coolest moments in this entire arc.
It's peak comedy.
I was like, ooh, that's incredible. And Sanji did a lot of other things in it, but for me, it really is, if I'm going to be honest, all about the idea of all the people laughing at Sanji, the people back on the Baratier boat being like, looks just like him. And part of it about Sanji's ridiculousness was, for me, top tier humor. So you can give it to Sanji's bounty if you want, but it's the whole Sanji saga. Oh, by the way, Luffy is an A this time on the Luffy tier of Luffiness.
Yeah, that's fair.
Only because he it's not top tier, it's not low tier. Luffy did a great job of telling his grandpa, "Bye, grandpa, we're going to do a really good job of actually escaping now." That idea of the new world, all of the islands after a certain point were in the new world. And so when he was talking about the new world, I was like, why is it less known? Who's there? A new world has a lot of potential for colonialism and racism. So I thought that was a choice that Oda was making. And I want to predict that there's going to be a lot more racism and colonial overtones inside of the new world, because otherwise, why would you call it the new world? You know what I mean?
Someone gave bits to ask you who you think the top 5 strongest are that you're aware of so far.
Garp. Are we counting giants or not?
I think we should count giants. I think this is like combat strength, though. Like, this is who's strongest in a fight, not just who lifts the most.
If we're talking just your own physical ability within your body, I'm putting Mihawk at top tier.
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, then it's Blackbeard, because Blackbeard got one by Shanks. So I think it's Whitebeard. I think it's Whitebeard, Blackbeard. Oh, that's not the level, though. I think it's
no. I feel
Whitebeard, and then it's maybe Red Hair Shanks. But then it would have to be Blackbeard. And then it's Mihawk and then Garp.
And what? Okay.
Okay, so Fishman Island, we already know that there's going to be a lot of racism and things going on just on Fishman. Also, the live action really plays up that racism well before we ever go there. So I think because of that, I'm expecting like a lot of hatred and anger around the Fishman Island. I think we're going to meet a stingray. What year is this chapter written in?
Are you wondering if there's about to be a Steve Irwin reference?
Yes. Enies Lobby was around the time Steve Irwin died. There you go. So if that happened, and now we're going to be going to Fishman Island, to me, it makes sense that a stingray fish is going to play prominently in this thing. I would, if I was an author. Like, honestly, if you weren't around during that time, you wouldn't know, but like, we were devastated by Steve Irwin's death. Like, the world was devastated by Steve Irwin's death. Top 5 character designs. Wow. Mihawk.
Yeah, Mihawk has one of the best designs in fiction.
He is so well done.
He immediately looks like the world's greatest swordsman.
Pearl, clearly. Jolly Roger, you rotten kid. When I saw Mihawk, I was like, I immediately love this character, want him to be my best friend. Honestly, Red Hair Shanks.
He has so much gravitas while also looking humble.
He has all of this strength, he has all of this swagger, and yet somehow does it with a humble heart. My next one would be Luffy. He is the most layered, complex, simple character I've ever seen. How do you create a character who is so simple and direct and yet make him so secretive and layered? That's impressive. My next character that I think is just best character design, who I think about a lot, would be Correa. I think that's one of the best written characters. She keeps coming up in your mind, whether you like it or not. She sticks. And then my last character that I would put on there for character design would be Robin. I'm thinking about the way they're written, their backstories, their visual, their swagger, their richness, their depth. Robin is one of those characters who, it doesn't matter what scene she's in, she immediately adds gravitas to the scene.
Yeah, she had so much importance to everything she's in. Do you foresee us seeing Luffy split the skies? And if so, how many chapters do you think we would need to get through before that would happen?
Split the skies, you mean the way that Red Hair Shanks?
Yeah, split the heavens. The reason I asked this is because this is something I asked myself as soon as I saw it. Is Luffy going to be at this level one day? Will he do this?
I think Luffy is going to go beyond that. And splitting the heavens is going to have a particular meaning, in my opinion, the ability to do that. And I think Luffy is going to level up on that. And that's one of the ways that we're going to understand now that his power is outstripped the outside. And by the outside, I mean my directions, because that's how I think of them. I think with Luffy's power, with sun power, I think we're going to find that he's going to be able to like burst the sky. I think about it as, if I was writing it, I would call it sunburst.
Do you want to put a chapter number on when you think that could happen, or just the splitting the sky? It's up to you. That's just a thing that I wondered when I got here, so I'm curious.
What chapter does it go up to now?
1100. Okay. So now you're also guessing if we've seen it yet, and if so, how long did it take?
We're at 1100. I'm wondering.
1101. I'm asking because I wondered when I first saw it with Shanks and Whitebeard. It was one of the first things I thought to myself.
I'm thinking that that's going to be like a chapter 873.
873.
Can I put 2? Because that seems fair.
Sure. Okay. If you hit either of them, I'll give you a star. You don't get a mushroom if you're wrong, because guessing a chapter number is not the same as guessing story beats.
1092.
I think we're ready to say goodbye.
I hope everyone had a really good time. We had a great hangout with each other. A bunch of people who all like One Piece, One Piecing.
I was asked earlier if I would erase my memory to experience One Piece for the first time again. I don't think there is anything I would ever do that involves erasing my memory, because I see everything as I have with me as part of who I am. And that includes especially One Piece being part of who I am. I don't think I'd want to be the me who wouldn't have it, because that wouldn't be me anymore.
When you have somebody who does something that's master work, it is an honor to get to see that and to get to participate in something where you're like, this is at a level that's beyond the average or even the excellent work of others in this field. And even if it's not something that you would normally be called to or pulled to, that when you are lucky enough to find something that's master work, it is actually your honor to participate in it.
I love talking about this. This has been so much fun. Thank you guys so much for being here.
This is going to be another t-shirt for me.